Hello everybody, Trevor Artist here. Today we're gonna paint this goldfish in 3 simple steps. Step 1. Draw the goldfish. Consider the basic shape of the goldfish as well as the direction and the flow of the fins. Over here I'm using the kneaded eraser just to remove all the unnecessary dark lines and the mistake that I've made during drawing. Next, consider the brush that you want to use. Over here I'm making use of a couple of Kolinsky brushes, some nylon brushes for the detail and also for the shadow. Step 2. This is where you actually identify the hue of the fish and disregard the shadow. You can see I started charging in with some yellow, some oranges, and some red, indicating where the primary hues of the fish could be found, ignoring all the shadows. As I want the back fins to be sort of in the distance, I soften the edges at the back. Next, I tilt the book a little bit just to drain off the excess with a thirsty brush. Now I'm waiting for the paper to dry. You need to check. Sometimes you need to check the back of the paper just to make sure that the pigment is completely dry before you move on. Once it's completely dry, there will no longer be reflective surface, then you can start loading in with additional layers. At this point in time, this is just still suggesting the primary hue of the fish. You're getting closer to suggesting shadow, but still just generally where the majority of the chroma is. Some of the red, some of the oranges, okay, some of the yellows, and maybe sometimes some cool colors you can start to include in there. So some parts of the fish is a little bit cooler. Start to include a little bit of brown in this layer. Step 3. For this step, we are going to be working on the shadow of the fish. Instead of just relying on the warm colors, we're starting to include a little bit of the cooler variation to these colors. I'm mixing in a thicker red right here just to suggest the vibrancy of the fish. And I've also started to include a little bit more of the cooler side of each tone by including more blues and brown to the mix. Now some details just to get a sense of how things may look like. Now I'm loading in some shadows for the mouth. And I actually messed up in this step. As you can see in the following shot, background happened because I didn't wait for the layer to dry. But thankfully, this wasn't a thick layer, so subsequent shadow layers could actually cover it up. As you can see over here, I'm using thicker pigment for subsequent layers, both towards the chromatic area and also the darker areas. And thankfully, this managed to cover up as I move closer towards the final image. So essentially you want to only thicken the pigment as you move closer to the final product, because this is more of a safer way. Over here I'm softening some of the edges and also including more of the vibrancy by including different variety, alizarin crimson, some oranges, some purple for the cool side of the colors. And we're coming to the final painting now, just adding a little bit more detail and also suggesting a little bit more cool colors to the fish. And if you can see in the reference, there's a little cool light coming from the top left corner. I kind of regret not suggesting the color temperature to begin with on my first wash. I thought it was risky because it was a cool color and I want to retain the warmth of this entire fish. I decided to make use of gouache, which is opaque, to paint the light and the end. So I'm suggesting some of the details by using some cooler color and also detailing some of the fins, some of the direction of the fins to make it a little bit more apparent using white gouache. And I mix it with a little blue so that it could suggest a cooler tone. You can see over here the blue is actually toned down by the white, and because it's opaque and it's gouache, I can cover it. And you want to be really careful with this because this is like the finishing touch. This is coming towards the end of the video. If you find this useful, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for future updates on painting demonstration. The link to this fish is also found in the description below. Happy painting!